Welcome, our dear viewer on Uganda Catholic Television. Good news for all. Thank you for loving our television. Thank you for keeping viewing our television. And we come again with our program, Responsible Citizenship, Responsible Leadership, brought to you by Dr. Kiiza Emmanuel ALIBA, the National Justice and Peace Executive Secretary here at the Uganda Episcopal Conference in Zambia. Our program has been running now for a number of months. We are very happy that you have loved our programs. We get the feedback when you people have viewed our programs, we get the feedback. And thank you for giving us that feedback that you love our programs. We shall keep journeying together in our faith, because as I said last time, faith is a shared activity. It is not lived alone. No, we share the little that we have to build each other, to build each other's faith. You never know, the lesson that you learn from me today may take you for quite some good time as we live our faith. So we had started a journey of bringing together, to study together, to learn together the bishop's pastoral letters. As I told you last time, the bishops have always talked and they have always written in bad and good times, especially when they feel that Ugandans are not doing well in terms of the climate, in terms of social relationships. Then they talk and write to us because they are our shepherds. So last time we looked at the first letter, the guiding principles, the church and state, the guiding principles. Archbishop wrote this to us as we were beginning our independence. When the flags were the flag of Uganda was being released, the bishops also issued a letter to us with joy, shaping our national destiny. How do we move together now that we are becoming independent? And now we are seeing that after some few years, from 62 to 63, then 79, they issued the letter reshaping our national destiny. As I told you last time, why were we reshaping? It's because when we became independent, we did not move the way the bishops expected us to move as a country. We started attacking one another in our political, our political circles. Socially, we started killing one another. Things were not doing well as the bishops could see. So now they issued another one after a few years in 1979, which we dealt with when I was here the last week. Today, you're going to see that the other reshaping our destiny was issued in 79. And now, in 1980, the bishops issue another letter. Oh my God. How? Just in a record of 1 year, the bishops issue another letter. Then there must have been a challenge in Uganda. And even the heading of this letter shows that other bishops had a strong message to give to the Ugandans. The one that they wrote in 1980 is, I have heard the cry of my people. I have heard the cry of my people. I have heard the cry of my people. Oh, this is how they begin this letter. I have heard the cry of my people. They say, both in times of joy and in times of sorrow, God spoke to his people through the mouth of his prophets. They were not always the best speakers, but acted in humility and trusting in God's power. Thus, they were able to bring comfort and hope, both by speaking God's words and by sharing the fate of their people. As Israel suffered at the hands of the Egyptians, God spoke to one of these religious leaders called Moses and said, I have heard the cry of my people, and I have decided to set them free. This is the heading. That is where they base. Now, this letter, for you who have lived longer than myself in Uganda, it is written in 1980. In 1980, President Idi Amin had been removed from power. Elections were going to take place. Now, in a number of places, people were killing each other, especially in the West Nile. In Arua Diocese, the bishop there by then, Bishop Angelo Tarantino, was being threatened. One of his religious had been killed. His priests were every time getting threats of death. The church in Maracha had been profaned. Just to mention one place, Arua Diocese. So the previous few days, because Cardinal Emmanuel Cardinal Nsubuga, had written to the same bishop on the 2nd day of November. The 2nd day of November is a day for the dead, when we remember the dead in the Catholic Church. So there were many people who had died unjustly. So the cardinal wrote to Bishop Tarantino, wrote to his people here in Kampala Archdiocese. There were a lot of death in Kampala, in Katwe, in Nakulabye. The dead bodies were common. You go find a dead body, you don't know the person who has killed him. You don't know the reason why this one is killed. The army was attacking each other, in different areas of Uganda. Actually, people were crying. People were crying at that time. And the bishops decided to come and address them, to tell them, God has heard your cry. And they continue to say, it is with Moses' same feeling of humility and of trust in God that we wish to address ourselves to you. We know that we cannot bring a quick solution to the problems that beset you on every side. Just the same, we want you to know that in your hour of sorrow, we, your shepherds, are close to you with sympathy, fatherly love, and solidarity. Once again, we renew our intention of being the voice of the poor and of the oppressed. The bishops go on to say, the defenders of truth and the right, the agents of reconciliation and conversion. Where our efforts fail, may God's mercy and power triumph. This is the voice of the bishops of Uganda. They are consoling our people. They are telling our people, please, these difficulties that you are going through, one, God has heard the cries that you people have been crying. They specifically wrote to the bishop, and they say, first of all, we want to express our brotherly concern and solidarity to our brother in the episcopate, Bishop Angelo Tarantino Varua. We know of your suffering, and we thank God who has given you the strength and kept you safe. So they specifically wrote to their brother bishop, because at that time he was suffering so much in Arua. So this letter is to bring hope that God, if we trust God, God is going to change the lives of our people. They also write to, on page 4, to the victims of violence. So they bring out the letter that, the previous letter that Emmanuel Cardinal Subuga had written on 2nd of November. You remember the 2nd of November of 1980 was a Sunday. So Cardinal Subuga wrote and said, it is a coincidence that the second, when we remember the dead, is a Sunday when we remember the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So he was giving his people hope that the dead is not the final. Our final destination is the resurrection. Where Jesus is, we shall be. So they quoted this letter of 2nd November, and they say, we make our own his plea of peace and for forgiveness. We encourage our faithful people to extend a helping hand to those who have been touched by violence. So they really wanted to be with the people who were suffering at that time. And the suffering was too much in our country. The suffering that Ugandans had caused against Ugandans. Of course, some elements also had come from out, and also people of bad heart now were using the situation, of looting. So in Arua, there was a lot of looting. In Kasese, a number of people were dying. But again, you wouldn't know who is killing them. So, but then the military uniform was so much feared, because even those who were not army men but could put on a military uniform to terrorize villages. So there was a lot of things not going on well. Human life had become so cheap. Taking off human life is like killing a grasshopper. So the bishops were really concerned. When I read this letter, I feel myself how our fathers are, fathers are talking to their children. They are feeling the pains that we are going through at that time, in 1980. For me, I was a little boy. So some of these things I saw, but some I could not now remember. But there are those who have lived more years than myself. So what I'm talking about, you know very well when you are telling. But also parents, where you are, it is good to tell our children our history. History Very important. Because if you don't know history, you may not know exactly where we have reached and where we are going. It's good for our children to have this history with them. This is why I'm laboring to bring you history, so that you know that the bishops have been moving with us right before independence. They have been moving with us. And up to now, their voice is always heard. So this is the voice for you who are not there, the voice of the bishops. I try to bring it to you because I have it in my office. Some of you may not easily get some of these letters, but I have to labor by virtue of the work that the bishops gave me to do. I have to bring their voice to you right from history. And by good, I'm a good student of history. I use it to teach history, so I like history so much. So the bishops also, on page 5 of the letter, address themselves on the violence, and they advised the army at that time not to spoil their uniform, because people were now fearing the uniform. Wherever they see a uniform of an army man, you know, it's another. So this was a very short letter. It was not a very long letter. For the army, they say, unfortunately, violence has been the curse that has poisoned the lives of all people all over the country. You, the army, as defenders of the weak, we make our own the concern of citizens for their personal safety, for the security of their property, and for their future as free human beings. You know? So they reminded our security personnel at that time to take keen interest in protecting people's lives and people's property. The bishops also addressed themselves on the elections that were coming. Organizing elections was taking place at that time. And they were seeing the environment was not very conducive to the voters. So they also advised, they gave advice that as you people are organizing these elections, would like people's rights to be observed, would like a free and fair election. We would like to see people express their right, people express their choice in a very free environment. So they addressed themselves on the issue of the elections that were going to take place. They didn't want to see electoral malpractices. The bishops didn't want to see them. They wanted a free and fair election. And they also addressed the leadership. They said a true leader is one who accepts victory or defeat according to the free choice of the majority of the people. I always tell our political brothers, I say, when you win an election, win honorably. And when you lose, also lose honorably. I always tell people, especially my young people, why should someone's win or someone's loss of election, why should it cause you to burn a road? Why? Why should somebody's loss of election or someone's win of election, why should it make me burn a road which road I am passing every day. And possibly the person who has won the election may not pass through this road for a long time, but I am passing through that road. So the bishop are really concerned for the leaders to accept the loss and the win in accordance with the free choice of the people. Accept it. I found it here very difficult these days for you, my brother and sister politicians, to accept a loss. There are not many. I think it was in the US, I think it was when President Barack Obama won the election. So the one who was competing with came on the podium and congratulated him. And he told him, for the sake of the Americans and for the sake of our great America, you are my president. I felt so good. You have been running in an election, and now one has won. Then you who has lost, you who have lost, you come and say, for the sake of the Americans, so respecting the voice of the Americans, and for the sake of the Americans, and for the sake of our great America, you are my president. Oh my God. I pray that one day this one will happen also in Uganda. You see, my brother, politicians, after the elections, you count how many court cases do we get. It's okay to run for justice, but somewhere, somehow, we should have that spirit when the people have talked. You say, for the sake of the people of Uganda, and for the sake of our beautiful country, the Pearl of Africa called Uganda, you are my chairman, LC5. You are my member of parliament. You are my, you know. So that spirit, I think we need, the bishops here would like us as leaders to have that spirit of respecting what the people have decided in the election, and also of respecting our country. And say, for the sake of our country, I will step down. For the sake of my area, I will step down. Thank you very much for viewing our Catholic television, Good News for All. Now we are going in for a commercial break. After that, we shall come again to make sure that we complete this letter of the bishops. Keep viewing Uganda Catholic Television, Good News for All. Welcome back from that commercial break. We are very grateful that you are still going on with us, and we are here to bring to you the different pastoral letters that our bishops have written. And today we are handling the pastoral letter called I Have Heard the Cry of My People, which the bishops wrote in October 1980. This was a pastoral letter after the outgoing one, or after the one I explained to last week, reshaping our destiny, reshaping our nation. When things were not going well, the bishops would not allow the people to go without their voice. No, they wrote to their people. And this letter, we are told, for those who were around, that it caught the attention of very many people at that time, 1980, especially issues to do with the elections of the elections of that year. So this letter was very much quoted among the people, that our spiritual leaders, our leaders have guided us, and we need to pay heed to this guidance. But as we shall see, that people did not pay heed to some of these teachings. There are many people who did not. And because things were not going on well, from now on you will see almost every year the bishop started writing to his people, to their people. Every now and again the bishops wrote, and until 1986, almost every year you will see the bishops writing various letters to the people. So this shows us that the bishops did not leave their people alone. They were always moving with their flock. They were always guiding the people, both in good times, as we show at independence, and also in bad times, when now Ugandans started killing one another and were not respecting each other, corpses everywhere. So when life became so cheap, the bishop said, we shall still guide you. For those you who pay heed, thanks be to God. At least the message of the bishop, they wanted to reach Ugandans, so that our country is well guided. Now, on the page 7 of this pastoral letter, I have heard the cry of my people. The bishops deal with the right to information. There were a number of secret things that were taking place when actually the information was not there. For example, they say truth and reliable information are necessary for the growth of national conscience and solidarity. We have very often observed in the people a lack of knowledge of what is going on in other parts of Uganda, and as a consequence of it, lack of interest. For a long time, many Ugandans were not aware of what was going on in Karamoja. Now they do not know what is going on in West Nile and Kasese district, just as if the areas were not part of the nation. So they gave examples here on page 8 and say, among these issues, there's the indiscriminate shooting which takes place nearly every night in and around Kampala. So bishops were asking, who are these people shooting each other? The information was not there. You only wake up to find a dead body, but there's nobody taking accountability, no justice, So, but you wake up, you find the body there. Then the fighting of soldiers among themselves. Actually, men in uniform, because some may not have been soldiers anyway. So, but men in uniform fighting against themselves. Here they also list the retaliation of armed forces against civilians. Now, armed forces had turned their guns to the civilians whom they are supposed to protect. Then the financial situation of the country. For those who were there, I also remember some little bit of it. The goods were not there, these goods that we normally use at home. Soap, I think we were using papaya leaves to wash our clothes. That one I remember. We are using some leaves. I think that's the time I also hated eating fish. I eat fish because of its value, but that time I ate fish without salt. And you can imagine eating fish without salt, what it means. So I ate fish without salt. My mom had gone to Fort Portal. She came with some fish for us. So I ate fish without salt. So since that time, I'm very reserved at eating fish. But I'm trying to bring these experiences that my young Ugandans may not have known. So bringing what the bishops are talking about the financial situation of the country. There was a lack of these common things that we use in our homes, sugar. Sometimes some people may tend to forget what we have gone through, but all these we have gone through. And actually, we don't want to, the bishops in the other letters that we shall see them writing, they wouldn't like Uganda to go back where we came from. No, we want to prosper. You will see the letter when we reach it, when they are writing about when we are celebrating 50 years of our independence. You will see how the joy that they had and how they guided us, that the next 50 years should be the 50 years of prosperity. So we shall reach that later. It's not now. So these kind of situations make our bishops uncomfortable, and they wouldn't like to see, as shepherds, to see us going through these kind of situations. So they say in the same page 8, the real causes of these incidents, how they developed, and the steps taken to solve them, not only are not explained to the people, but at times are covered up according to the views of certain political leaders. We find it difficult to accept that the tragedy of West Nile may be covered up simply by the use of the sacred word of liberation. People are dying, and you say, we are liberating the country. You know, the bishops were really against this. A situation of fear and violence in the context of the imminent elections cannot be covered up by superficial declarations that everything is under control. So you'd hear leaders saying to the people, don't mind, everything is under control. But under control when people are dying, when people are getting lost. So the bishops are saying, no, you cannot tell the people everything is under control. We need to change, to give the right information to the people at that time. So they say this kind of falsehood generates the suspicion of connivance. Truth is the force of peace and is required by dignity of the people. So these are very strong statements that the bishops tell us in this letter, I have heard the cry of my people. So the last one, as I told you, this letter is one of the smallest letters that the bishops have written, so very few pages. So and in case you need these letters, you can access them in our archive here. You just come to the Catholic Secretariat. We shall be able to photocopy one letter for you, so that you get this information by yourself. So in the last, they say, in the wake of the recent Synod of Bishops in Rome, we shall address ourselves to the family over the next few months. So in due time and with expert help, we hope to establish also in Uganda a number of programs and movements that have proved successful elsewhere in the world. So they promised us, the bishops promised us, that there would be some action actionable, they will take action, especially on the family. But our families cannot now concentrate on spiritual things when too many of them have to fight the daily battle for physical survival, be it in the desert of Karamoja or in the hearts of Katwe. Violence pushes them to reprisal and fear, while poverty pushes them to dishonesty and immorality. Together with worried parents, we look forward to the coming of the Lord in the shape of a time of peace, goodness, and justice. So they are concluding the letter and say, the coming season of Advent gives us an opportunity to praise. You remember, the letter is written in October, so the November, the Advent was due. So they say the coming season of Advent gives us an opportunity to praise and encourage those among you who have kept the faith, practiced charity and forgiveness, spread words of peace, and worked for justice. It is through your good works that the Lord will come. Yes, Uganda now is morally sick, and we are certain that a return to sound Christian practice can cure it. A return, these are very strong words. A return to sound Christian practice can cure it. A return to moral health can only be obtained through prayer and fasting. With this in mind, we plan to announce at a later date a comprehensive program for the year of penance. So we needed penance at that time so that we learn to forgive each other, because we had wronged one another. So here they conclude, at this moment, let it suffice to give you this idea behind this spiritual project, that we need repentance. The bishop asked for repentance, keeping with the Christian spirit. Repentance leads to peace of mind, generosity, and joy. When God's people returned from the exile in Babylon, the high priest was asked to read the law that many had forgotten. As they listened, their hearts were touched, and they all began to cry. The high priest paused in reading and told the repentant crowd, "Do not cry, because the joy that comes from the Lord is your strength. May this joy be made available to each one of you, ruled and rulers, oppressed and oppressors, victims and tormentors." And there they conclude their letter, "I have heard the cry of my people." So the next time I come, in the next week, we shall come again with another pastoral letter of the bishops. Remember, it is not going to be a year. It's actually less than a year when the bishops write again. We shall see even right after that, there will be another one being issued. This should tell us that at that time, many things were not going on well in Uganda. And the bishops did not keep quiet. They told the people who were present at that time, just as they are doing now. Because at one moment, we are going to reach the most recent pastoral letter that they have written, and you see that they have moved with us in our history up to today. The bishop are still talking to us. They are still guiding us. But we used to call it the lowest common multiple is to have peace. We all need peace. Without peace, not many things can go on in a country. And in a peaceful country, a number of developments take place. You cannot hear guns, the shooting of guns in a place, and you go to develop that place. It can't. So what we need is peace. And this is what I always call upon fellow Ugandans. Let us learn to live in faith. Let us learn to live in peace. Let our faith help us to build peace. We shall not agree always and in everything. We can't agree because we are created differently. We are all having different, world view. We are having different experiences, education. We shall not agree in everything with everybody. And I don't expect to find that in Uganda, no. But there are things that unite us. There are things when it comes to development. Either we agree or we don't agree, we have to develop this country. Let's put our disagreement somewhere and we talk about development. Development in our people in eastern Uganda. Let's talk about that. So the disagreements really should be here in our, it's okay. But on issues, the fundamental issues, when we are handling with the fundamental issues of the development of this country, there we must all agree and work in the same direction. And I see a number of our children, possibly, you don't know. War is expensive. This one I must tell you, war is expensive. Yes, war is very expensive. To have a war in the country is very expensive. So if we can avoid anything to do with the war in this country, we shall develop. You can see how long it has taken us to reach where we are now. So all these gains that we have made, we should build on them. We should build on all the gains that we have made. Those countries that we go to and are developed, yes, we admire them, but they went through a process to reach that development. They went through a process. And one process, one fundamental process to reach a good development is having peace. This is why I come to you. This is why I labor to give the bishops a voice of peace, the voice of love, the voice of development, so that from history, our bishops have always wished us well. They would like to see their children peaceful. They would like to see their children developed. So this is what our bishops would like to see among us as Ugandans. So I would like to thank you for viewing our Uganda Catholic Television. Good news for you. And let's keep this journey together. Let's move together so that we really understand the voice of our leaders. And for those who are able to help others, especially the young generation, to change their way of looking at some serious matters of national importance, serious matters of our national development, I think we need to help one another so that we don't regress, but we only progress. We all want a beautiful Uganda where we shall enjoy the beauty that God has given us. Uganda, we can't blame God at all. God endowed us. God gave us the best of everything for this country. We only blame ourselves for not doing what we should do in order to promote the beauty of this Uganda. But with these programs, when we listen to the voice of our bishops, let us come back to normal, and we together put a brick, building Uganda should be, each one should do, like you remember in the past letter where they said, let us be like these working ants. When you find things are not going on well, let us all come together, each in his own or her own effort, to ensure that Uganda is as beautiful as possible. We need to live in a beautiful and peaceful country. Thank you for viewing Uganda Catholic Television. Good news for all, and keep loving us and keep supporting our television until we really help each other to move in the best direction in regard to our faith. Keep viewing.